only lets you do woohoo live.
I'm so sorry for anyone that's been waiting for 7 minutes, wondering what on earth is going on. This is the first time I've been StreamYard. And apparently I deleted it off Facebook, so I had to reconnect. But anyway, we're here finally. So welcome to those that are listening live and anyone that's watching the replay. And I'm also putting this on YouTube, so anyone that's watching on YouTube and through Melanie's channels as well, welcome. My name is Anuska Taylor, and I'm a voice coach. Melanie Trapman is my special guest today, all the way from sunny Australia, although I reckon it's sunnier here at the moment, maybe.
It's just gotten sunny today.
Okay, fine. It's always going to be warmer where you are. So, so Melanie is a Pilates movement therapist and a former president of the Australian Pilates Movement Association. Have I got that correct?
It's a big acronym. Australian Pilates Method Association.
Oh, sorry. I'm just making things up.
We do movement. That is correct.
Okay. There we go. So I'm just making things up as per usual. Well, I'm not going to be making stuff up in this. Don't worry. But so Melanie and I have known each other for I was trying to work this out yesterday, about 5 years.
Yeah, me too. That's what I came up with.
Yeah, because I've been back in the UK for 2 years, more than 2 years. And so I'm just, before we get into this topic, I'll just let Melanie introduce herself a little bit more, because for many people watching, they may have never met you before or seen you before.
Yes. Hello to everyone watching at home. So I'm Melanie, or Mel, and I love Pilates. I love my job, and I love helping people lead a more functional life so that their body doesn't hold them back from doing things that they want to do. And so I started out as a personal trainer. I actually lost my dad when I was 15, so just before I finished year 10 at school. And I had this moment where my midlife crisis was like, what are you going to do, Mel? Life is short. And it was this huge slap in the face for me to say, what do you want to do with your life? Get to it. And so I studied personal training, got some clients. I started training people, and a lot of people wanted to lose weight and get fitter. And everyone that could kind of afford to have a personal trainer was, above 40. And so they would have a few aches and pains, some sore knees, sore backs, sore neck, all the usual things. And I felt wholly unequipped to deal with anything in their body as a personal trainer. We learnt a little bit about injury prevention, but going easy in a squat or going easy when someone's jogging just wasn't enough information to actually give people exercises that were going to heal and improve those pains that they had. And that is what led me to Pilates. The moment I did my Pilates course, just from the first day, my mind just expanded, and I've loved it ever since. The movement therapy that I do, I've been doing for around 15, 16 years, I think. And so I would do something else if it was more effective, but it just works. I love it.
And so that's obviously your studio behind you.
Yes. Yeah. All the equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. The side there.
It always looks a bit like a torture bed, but it's actually very.
Everyone does that.
Yeah, I love it. So I've got into clinical Pilates myself probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And this was one of the reasons I wanted to do this topic and talk to Melanie, because as a voice user, singer, and speaker myself, I have learned firsthand that your posture is absolutely critical to the functionality of your voice. And we don't always think about that. And the reason I think for a lot of us we don't really understand is the voice is a full body instrument. It's not just the larynx in your neck. Everything is connected to the voice. And the more I've learned about the voice and the mind-body connection, you cannot separate the body from the voice. And so if you want to find, as a speaker, even if you're someone that just sits at a desk all day, or particularly actually someone that sits at a desk all day and is on the phone, this is so important particularly because we're focusing on the voice here, but this is so important to find more ease, more freedom, more power in your voice in a much more effortless way. So I'm just going to sort of very briefly give my little overview, and then I'll let Melanie, because she's got a few images and pictures and things to show you, and she's the expert. So this is not my specialty, but obviously I have a little bit of understanding in terms of how I help people as a voice coach. But the spine is really the foundational support for the body and the voice. And from a voice perspective, particularly, it really allows the larynx to freely move. Then if we're kind of all cramped up and we're poking our chin forward and we're squishing our ear between our shoulder to try and speak on the phone, it allows this really expansive breath, which is really important to kind of support the voice. And also things like clear articulation and resonance are also absolutely linked to the posture, our posture. So, and then we add on to that. So that's just the actual workings of the voice. But then as a speaker, as a singer, you are most likely going to be either potentially walking around when you're speaking, or you might be moving your hands, your arms. So there's got to be some kind of dynamic movement available to you, as well as that kind of strength and balance in the body. So I'm going to let Melanie just talk a little bit about the anatomy, and she's going to try and keep this simple. But I've got some slides here, so you just let me know which one you want to go with first. But you're just going to give people a little bit of a brief overview of the sort of the postural anatomy.
Yeah, thanks, Anuska.
Just that small topic. Can you do that in 2 minutes or less, please?
I could do very few things in 2 minutes, Anuska, but I will try my best for you. So the first graphic that I've got, which is all of the different postures. So there are many different posture types, but there are a few main ones that I see all the time. Now, if you have a look at my demonstration, this middle posture is what my natural posture is. If I'm fatigued, this is what I go to. So this middle posture, where my head is forward, my shoulders are back, hips are forward, and heels are back. This posture is the dominant posture in society today, and it's called the sway posture. But we talk about it as because I think sway, people understand sway as more in that right picture, the picture that's got the banana back, what we call banana back, where the back is arching and it's in a more lordotic position. So that banana shape, people used to call that sway. So it's a bit confusing. So we've called this sloth. Has anyone seen Ice Age, or does anyone have any kids or nieces or nephews? This middle posture, if you watch Sid the Sloth, you will see him kind of like sinking into his body as he walks. And this middle posture is the dominant one. It's the most common that I see in the studio today, and just walking around town. You know, you've got to do that a bit with blinkers on to turn your Pilates brain off, so you're not assessing everyone all the time, because everyone's got postural deviations and it'd be an overload of info. But yeah, this middle posture is super duper common. And so the one on the left, just to briefly talk about it. So from the left, we've got, it's almost a little bit flat back posture as well, but this is what I call hunchback, where the thoracic or that middle back is over in a curve. And this is how you might hold your shoulders if you've been sitting at the desk for too long, or if you're looking down at your mobile phone, sitting on the train, or sitting and just watching things on your iPad or whatever. So this hunchback is problematic for a lot of reasons. But if you have a look, at the sway back, you can actually see there is a hunchback involved. So there is no one exact posture that everyone has. Everyone will have a slight deviation depending on their mental status, how stressed you are, where you hold your anxiety or your fear or your excitement, and also what habits you've built up depending on your job, your strength, your weakness. There are a lot of factors that impact your posture. So when we do an assessment with our clients, when we're doing our one-on-one and we do our postural assessment, we look at a few things. So Anuska, if you can go to the side view in the next slide.
Okay.
This has turned into a little bit of a presentation. This wasn't my intention.
This
So
one?
yeah. So we talk about posture in ideal, and Anuska, I watched your posture and why it matters video as well. And it's so true. No one has perfect posture. I don't have perfect posture all the time, but posture should be more ideal than perfect. And if you have a look at this line, you can see the green line, and that is where all of those little, the next thing you can see is the yellow dots at the side of the knee, the side of the hip or the greater trochanter. There's one at the front of the ASIS there, but you can't really see that too well. So there's one at the shoulder and there's one at the EAM at the ear. So we've got ear, shoulder, hip, knee, and there is one on the ankle down there too. So ideal posture, this person would have all of those yellow dots aligned along that green line. Now, when we're doing our initial assessment, I individually plot these and find these spots on people's bodies because everyone has a different shape. So what we can see, and this is a very, very common finding, you will see this person has a sway posture. And if you read the words, so it actually works out how heavy and how much load your neck muscles are taking. And this is one of the most important things that we do when we assess people. So very important with voice. It's about staying free and loose so we don't overuse our accessory muscles when we're speaking or singing. And so the sway posture, the head position is super important. So if you have a look, we put in people's height and weight when we do this. We do a full assessment. And this person, depending on their weight, their head has been worked out to weigh 5.3 kilos.
Wow.
So these muscles are built in this person to hold 5.3 kilos. That's what they're meant to be holding. Second line here says, based on physics, your head now weighs 27.8 kilos.
Wow.
So until you see it, like if you look at the picture, you're like, yeah, the head's a bit forward. It doesn't look that bad.
Yes.
And then you have a look and you're like, your muscles are meant to be taking 5, but they're taking 27. That's substantial.
Absolutely. And yeah, as you said, I mean, you've just touched on it, but it's so important. The head-neck balance is critical for your voice because once the neck muscles get involved, that directly impacts the larynx and the freedom and the movement of the larynx. And you're just never going to find freedom in your voice if the neck is taking on all of that extra strain. So sorry, yes, hugely important.
But you're right. Like, you know, when I get up to sing in front of people, or if I'm speaking to a group that, you know, I might think, oh, geez, these guys, what are they going to think about me? The first thing, you know, depending on where you hold your tension, and so many people, for so many, it's, you know, they'll tell me they hold their stress here. And it's another way to say that when I get scared or when I get anxious, that this is what I tense to protect myself and make myself feel safe. So it's such a common place for tension that it's one of the main things we look at with posture. So if your muscles are taking 27 kilos, they are obviously going to fatigue a lot quicker. And it also starts to change what we call the length tension relationship in that muscle. So it actually makes it weaker. The more load you take, the more often, it's like, your car sitting still and you pressing the accelerator and just holding it there rather than it just sitting at idle. If you've revved the car and you're pushing at 3,000 revs per minute, instead of the engine resting, it's obviously going to fatigue it a lot quicker. And the same thing here, if you find that you get neck tension or your neck starts, or it's even a bit sore before you start work and the computer makes it worse, definitely you've got problems with that length tension relationship. And already that muscle has probably started to weaken and struggle under the strain of 5-6 times your amount that you're meant to take through your neck muscles.
And just I'm not sure if you're getting to this, but what's the impact of this posture on the breath and the ability to breathe more efficiently?
Yeah. So we have primary muscles of respiration and we have secondary. So the primary ones are the ones that are meant to be working more and more often. So when you've got poor posture, and some postures are worse than others, they'll do different things to your breathing muscles. But if we have a look at this common posture, the sway posture, the first thing you'll see is that the head and neck position is forward. So the larynx and the trachea are pushed forward. We've got problems with resonance already. And then we add in the tension of the neck here. Now, we're meant to be breathing, and I think we've had this conversation about diaphragmatic movement. And our breathing muscle, I think people don't realize that the diaphragm is a muscle used to breathe, and your breath can either be stronger or weaker depending on that strength of your diaphragm. So instead of using these primary muscles, we end up using these accessory muscles, and they're smaller, they're less efficient, they get tired quicker, and it's not their job. So they hate working so much, and they end up getting really, really tight and tense. And that's where we end up with a lot of these compensatory patterns where you tell me all the time, the larynx raising and the changes to our voice production. So yeah, posture impacts breath a lot, particularly this sway posture and this curve in the upper back, because it compresses your abdominal cavity. Now, everyone has kind of heard we should be breathing into our belly when we're singing, and it's kind of the thing that people know a lot about singing is breathing down into your belly. What they don't know is that when you have this sway posture, your obliques and the other abdominal muscles, they're kind of gripping on that length tension relationship I spoke about in the neck. They grip on and they hold tight all the time, which sounds a bit funny because a 60-year-old lady would come to me that's not necessarily toned or fit, and I would say to her, your abdominals are working too much. And she'd go, oh no, they're not doing enough. And I'm like, no, they're actually overworking. And in this posture, they're locked on, constantly tight. So when you go to take a breath, they're hitting this tense muscle and it's not free to move and expand to produce a good breath. So what do? Is we work harder to try and push against the tension of the abdominals, and we breathe like a and then all of this comes on as well.
I totally relate to that. I was working with a teacher a couple of years ago, and that was one of the things he said to me. He said, your abdominals are so tight that your belly can barely move.
Yes.
It's all kind of, it was so, you're so right. I mean, that's exactly what I've experienced. And when I started to kind of do more of the clinical Pilates, do more work around my breath and my abdominals, I was able to get much deeper breath, and it was just more effortless. And I think this is often why I hear a lot with speakers that they run out of breath easily when they speak. And I think it's because it's all up here. It's all so high and so tight.
Yeah. And it's a common thing that the abdominals have tightened, particularly if you have lower back pain. So it's like a chicken or egg situation. you have lower back pain, so you brace your abs, you can't breathe as well. And so you then start tightening through all of your other accessory muscles to compensate so you can still get the breath in, which then longer term, it becomes a habit. And so you end up becoming very weak in your diaphragm, which is one of your primary breathing muscles. So you will become weaker in the muscle you need to breathe.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just so fascinating. So in that position as well, is there any kind of hunching of the shoulders at all? So I guess the reason I'm asking is because you say from your perspective, this is the most common posture. But we also live now in a society where we are on our devices all the time, like on computers all the time. So is there any of that shoulder rounding in that posture as well?
There certainly is. And this person is a client to this day, and we are still working on keeping that upper back area mobile, because years of desk work for this particular client had created a very, very stiff thoracic, or that area which we call the hunchback.
Yeah.
That thoracic hunchback area, it gets very, very stiff. And what happens is if you sit with poor posture, or if you sit at a desk with slightly rounded shoulders for a long period of time, i.e. months and years, then most people have that hunch posture, which as a result tightens the pecs, it shortens the muscles around the front of the neck, and it, depending on actually what their neck posture is doing, because a lot of people are actually quite lengthened and pokey with the neck as well, but it loads these upper traps. And these traps are going to be something that I talk about all throughout this live, because it is just such a problem. We're all a bit grippy up top. So yes, there is a hunched posture here, and it's hunched because your brain is so smart. It keeps us alive. It balances us out. So if your hips, have a look at that hip yellow dot, it's so far forward. If your head and shoulders were to be over that posture, over that area, you would fall over. So your body compensates. It keeps your feet back, pushes the hips forward, and then to balance, it then brings the shoulders into curve, and then the head forward to balance out your body as best as it can.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. I think, I mean, I can certainly see myself in that posture, and certainly in the past particularly, but yes, absolutely. I think this is so common. The other slide you've got on this with this, did you want to show that, or is that not relevant to this conversation?
Yeah, we can. There is one more thing I want to say about this
yes,
posture,
of course.
and it's around the thoracic, that hunchback and the upper back area. So we measure this and we call it our hunch number. And just say we start with we measure it in millimeters. So just say we measure it and it's 60 millimeters. There is a lot for most people. There is an age where you get to, and I mean 75, 85, like most people in their 60s, I've been able to move their back around, and definitely still into the 70s. It is a lot harder, but there's an age definitely where it stops. But you can fix this. The main thing that I want people to know is that you are not just born with it and that is it. We're talking about this deviation, but you can fix it. That is what my job is. That's what I do all day. So when we get a hunch number like this, and just say it's 60, which is a large number, we might do an hour of Pilates corrective work on that upper back, and we can bring it back to 30.
Amazing. Yeah.
We can halve it, but you've got to, like in your tips video, nothing's an overnight fix. You know, you've got to keep at it and change some of those habits to make it stick. But it's very possible. I want to drive that home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just out of interest, if someone, I mean, I know we were going to talk about this at the end, but I think it is kind of relevant here. If someone is not sure, because what I find sometimes, and I'll use the voice as an example, usually the body's so good at compensating, as you say, and with the voice, we get very, very good at, say we've got a lot of tongue tension, the body just adapts around the tongue tension. So would there be, do you think, any symptoms or signs for someone that it might be pointing to there's some postural issues that maybe they've just ignored, or they've just got used to it over the years? Oh yeah, but this is just how I sit, and I don't even. Would there be any signs or symptoms for people to look out for?
Definitely. But before we go there, did you say tongue tension because I have suffered with it for so long? I've gotten my raspberry, like 3-4 years, and I've gotten my raspberry.
Well, I say tongue tension because it's probably the most common thing I see, and it's the most unconscious thing in people. They just have no idea that their tongue is even really that critical to their voice.
Yeah.
And then when you start to free it, then they realize how critical it is to their voice.
Yeah, it was huge for me. And I'm a Pilates movement therapist. I know the anatomy. I don't know as much as you internally, but just the difference that it had made, that tongue tension. So even if you are aware of, even if you exercise and you're aware of other things in the body, it's so much more intricate. You've got to really be in tune.
Yeah. And that's why you need, I think, someone like myself or you, depending on what it is, to help you connect to your body in that way. Because I mean, for me, I hear tongue tension, but I can't obviously feel it for you, but I can hear it in the voice. So
Yeah, interesting.
so I wonder, so from your perspective, what types of issues do you think someone might be perhaps just passing off as, oh, well, I just get sore shoulders, oh, my back's just sore, or and I mentioned to you before we went live, for me, when I started doing a lot more serious singing, I used to get a lot of lower back pain, and that was partly because I was wearing heels as well, but which we're going to come to in a minute. But yeah, so sorry for this topic first of all.
Yeah, I know, it's like so much we could talk about in this space. Two
I keep
passionate
opening
people
other
together,
doors.
and the energy like builds. So any type of pain for me, is a red flag. So the first thing is that posture is something we assess, but it's not something like I don't put this person, I don't put her knees back in the green line and pull her hips back and make her stand in. It is impossible. This person has had years of postural deviation and habit building. Some parts of the body are tight, some parts are weak. That means that even if I pushed her and held her in the ideal alignment, there is no way she could maintain it. And so any type of pain for me is a red flag that there is too much load. And we talk about load when we speak about joints in movement therapy and exercise science. You talk about load and how much the joint load is, how much it's taking. And so if your knees are sore and you have a sit-stand desk, this is my next thing. Sit-stand desks are wonderful if you are comfortable standing. If your knees hurt or your back hurts or your neck hurts when you're standing, then sitting or standing, that pattern and habit is going to come with you whether you are sitting upside down. So any type of pain is a symptom for me. Really common ones are, client said the other day, if you feel your calves are constantly tight. So you do have to have a bit of body awareness for that. But if you feel like the back, so between your knee and your heels, if they are constantly tight and you find that they never let go, you might be stretching them or whatever, it's not working, they are always on, that is a number one sign of sway posture.
Right. Interesting. Okay. And what about things like, so for me, like lower back, I had very, very tight hip flexors as well. Would that be related to this kind of posture? Would that be
Yes.
something else? Yeah.
Yes. So this posture has lengthened hip flexors, but it depends, because this is where it gets a little more deep. You can have a sway posture, which generally has lengthened hip flexors. But if you're, for example, someone that's had children, or you've had some type of prolapse in your pelvic organs, or you have had back pain or a back injury, your pelvis is going to tip forward. I've prepared my spine here.
Just popped it out.
I've got it right next to me. So
I'm just going to close this one for a minute so we can see your spine.
So our lower back is meant to have a curve in it. A lot of back pain happens because the pelvis tilts forward. And what happens as a result of that, you can see the space side on. These are the spinous processes, the bony bits. Like if you run your fingers down the back, that's what you feel, the spinous processes. And they have a healthy gap between them. Depending on your anatomy, there's a certain amount of space that you have between them. Now, when I bend forward to put my shoes on or to pick something up off the floor, my back does this and the spaces increase between them. When I have the other way, which is very, very common in back pain, it's the most common thing I see, the back ends up, you can see that pressing on itself, and the space now, or the pressure, has come off the front through here and has increased on the back. Now that will tighten your lower back, and that is the cause of a lot of back pain, and that can be fixed with postural correction.
Really interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
The tip in the pelvis that shortens all those back muscles, and it does it in a protective mode to try and protect the back. You know, if you've moved furniture or you've reached into the car for your coffee cup and your back's twinged or you felt something go, your body naturally grips up to protect. And what happens is just say you take some tablets, you know, some pain relief, and the pain settles down, your muscles don't naturally lengthen back to where they should to loosen and decrease that pressure off the back. They stay tight even though there's no pain present.
Right. Interesting. So would it be, so we were going to talk about this as well, but again, this could be a good segue. Is this what can happen when women wear high heels? Is that where the pelvis tilts forward? Because that's what I think. I know we spoke about this before. The only time I really wear heels is when I'm standing on stage singing, or if I'm out, maybe, you know, for a special occasion. So my body, then I found that I got increased back pain when I was performing in heels. Can you talk a little bit about what happens to our posture when we're wearing heels? Or is it similar to kind of what you just described with that?
Yes. So we were just talking about one of my online courses called High Heel Boot Camp, and
I love the name.
Thank my husband for that one. He's the creative.
We can put the link actually below afterwards if anyone's interested.
So in High Heel Boot Camp, we talk about what happens and what you actually can wear heels. I've got pairs of Lubies that I do wear when I go out. I wear very high heels, 16 centimeters or 14 centimeters. You can, not all the time, but you can wear heels well to prevent further problems, and you can also care for yourself. And that's what the boot camp is, you know, about making sure you've got enough flexibility at certain parts of your body to be able to achieve a relatively comfortable and offloaded position when you're wearing heels. So let me just I've got on my right side, this is Mr. Thrifty. He's missing, that's what he was in the box when I bought him, but he's missing a little bit. So I want to show you the pelvis and his leg here.
Poor Mr. Thrifty, is he missing a hand, an arm?
Yeah, he's also missing an arm. He's got some problems, Anuska, okay? Don't judge him for it.
I'm not sure Pilates is going to save him, to be honest.
So if we have a look at the thigh bone here, this is the femur. And if we go side on, just get a good view here. So what happens in high heels, that exact same thing happens to the lower back. So you know how we did that arch in this lower back? These spinous processes get closer together to compensate. Generally, they're compensating for tight quads. You have the quad muscles that sit at the front of your thighs that help you get up off a chair or squat down. And one of those quads attaches up to your pelvis. So what happens is when that's tight, it pulls the pelvis forward into that arch that we were talking about with the last spine, is that when the quads are tight, it also can pull your back into that banana back, that arched and compressed tight position for the lower back. And generally, the reason your back does that is, let me just put Mr. Thrifty back on his. So the reason your back arches is because you're asking your body to get into a position, and your brain is so smart. She wants to wear high heels. So how can I make this happen? Oh, she doesn't have enough flexibility at the knees. Her quads are a bit stiff. Where can I get movement from? And your lower back, it bends very, very easily into that arched position. And so your body is going to find what we call the path of least resistance, AKA the cheating way, the easiest way possible. And it's going to take the flexibility from your back if you don't have it in the hips and in the knees where you need it.
Really interesting. And do you find your female clients, is this a common theme for your female clients with heels?
Yeah. The interesting thing is, I think we have a lot of executives and people that are managers, and they're in high heels a lot. And so they're in this corporate environment, and when they take their shoes off, because Pilates, we do it in socks and move from the feet, we don't do it in shoes. So their posture doesn't just switch back. If they are in heels all day, every day, and they haven't addressed some of these restrictions that might be making it hard for their body to hold a great posture when they've got heels, or if they've got weak spots like weak abdominals to support the spine, then that back is going to get tighter and tighter. And when they slip the shoes off to wear joggers on the weekend with the kids, or even just to stand flat and walk around the house, I have a lot of women that will say to me, Mel, I can't actually put my heels down flat on the floor in a normal shoe. I have to have a bit of a heel. Now that is, that's your red flag for really stiff calves. So just because you've taken your heels off doesn't mean that your posture hasn't adapted to your 8-10 hours where you wear heels all day at work. So your body's smart, your brain is smart. It's going to adapt to make it as easy as possible for you to hold your body upright. And using muscles is very taxing. It takes a lot of fuel in the body, and your brain is constantly working on ways to conserve fuel and to conserve energy. So changing your posture and sticking your bum out and cramming your back onto itself and tightening all those back muscles and loosening the abs, all of those things are much easier than, loosening the quads and addressing those restrictions.
Absolutely. There's so many parallels to working with voices. I mean, there really is. The body is incredible at compensating.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And that's the thing. And so we only often, like with the voice, we only realize that there's some more serious things going on when we start to experience chronic fatigue with the voice, or there's issues with projection. The voice is very weak or very, very tired, or people are losing their voice all the time as well. That for me is a real red flag that there's some serious functional issues going on with the voice. But I think the other thing to mention too, which is what you said and what I say all the time, is it doesn't have to be this way. You can absolutely do something about it. So this isn't like a doom and gloom live. This is like, if you are someone, a lot of the women that I work with are in the corporate world. They are expected to be smart, and they're not allowed to walk around in trainers. They're going to meetings. They need to be in heels, but there are things you can do. And this is what you're saying, that you can learn to actually help yourself so that you can wear heels without it causing lots of problems posturally?
Yeah. Doom and gloom wise, we're talking a lot about what the problem is,
Yeah.
and the fix of how to fix it is a little bit more detailed, but we have touched on it. And the take home message is that the reason that we're talking so much about these issues is because I see them all the time and I work with them and we fix them all the time. So
Yes.
same as you with, you know, I used to lose my voice every single week. And yeah, it's not until you have this slap in the face to say something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, wouldn't it be nice to be whispered, you know, you need to fix your posture, your back's hurting, like, rather than having all that chronic back pain that attacks you all the time. So, yeah, I think when it comes to posture, there are so many things that impact it that no one can just stand and correct their posture
Mm.
from the get-go. You know, there are exercises that have to be done around your restrictions in your body. If you're getting tense through here, if your head is forward, you work with that as you're loosening the other parts of your body that you need to address. But it's definitely fixable, and that's why we're so excited being on this live tonight, because we see the transformation that it makes in people. And you know, the voice work that has made a huge difference. I speak for about 13 hours and I do my homework every
She
day
does
for
her homework.
I do my homework. I had a long way. I had a lot to work on, Anuska. So,
Yeah.
you know, 13 hours a day plus I sing, you know, 2 half hours. It's 14 hours a day my voice is working. So I couldn't do that before. And you know, that's just because of all of the technique and the training that you've, you know, all the time that you've spent on me trying to get this all working properly. And you
Yeah.
touched on the word function.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
How well things work. I think a lot of people, when it comes to movement and exercise, they think about how much you can lift or how strong you are. But in Pilates, and also with what you're saying, we talk about function, how well it works. How much
Yeah.
effort do you use to produce that movement?
Absolutely. And as you touched on before, it's the same with the voice. Are the vocal production muscles actually doing the voicing, or are you using neck muscles? Because what's very common with weak vocal muscles is the neck gets engaged. So you see people where their veins will stick out on the side of their neck when they're trying to project their voice, because the intrinsic muscles in the larynx are not doing their job because they haven't been trained. And so, like you were saying with in your work, the body compensates. It's amazing. It's like, okay, well, the neck's really strong, relatively speaking. Let's use those to bring the larynx together and to bring the vocal folds together. And so that's a very, very common thing that I see. And then you add the postural stuff to that. So the neck's already working to voice. Now your posture's kind of out because you're sitting hunched over a desk or on a device. The neck's now overly engaged. And I've totally been there myself in that kind of alignment, like hunched over. I've had to do so much work on that. But it does start with an awareness, I think. And I think it's not about, you know, and I say this all the time, everything starts with awareness. Just start to pay attention to, you know, at the end of the day, where do you find, I mean, I don't know, I'm just telling you your job here, but, you know, just bringing some awareness to your body, I think is also a good place to start, because a lot of people are not in touch with it. They're so used to, like for me, I thought having like really sore shoulders was normal. I just thought everyone had sore shoulders.
You mean traps like here?
Yeah.
Like this is normal? Yeah.
I thought everyone had that. And then I went to see, I can't remember who it was. This was a while ago. And he was like, no, that's not normal. I was like, oh, okay. And it's like when people come to me and they're like, oh, well, yeah, my voice is always tired at the end of the day, but doesn't everyone have a tired voice at the end of the day? And I said, no. So
No.
I think it's building awareness and just starting to pay attention to your body. What are the signs it's giving you? And for me, it was lower back pain. Also, what you described, really tight calves, particularly when I took heels off. I could barely like walk.
You have tight calves.
I did have, not so much now, but I did have This was before I started doing the clinical Pilates, and it was almost kind of painful to go from wearing heels to walking around on the floor with flat feet. And I was like, oh my God, this actually kind of hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, you've just ticked all the boxes. So yeah.
I basically have all the problems that you described.
Don't you worry. The other sign is multiple calf tears. So I have had 4 calf tears. Before I did Pilates, while I was doing personal training, I was like, why am I still tearing my calves? I'm really strong. I'm doing my stretches. But if I'm standing in sway posture for 8 hours a day, or all of the little moments in life where you have to stand, then it builds up. And eventually those calves just stay on and stay tight. So you are at increased risk of muscle tears and other injuries because of postural deviation.
Yeah. So just one other comment I just wanted to ask you about was, and I literally see myself in everything I'm saying. So this video is really for me, but hopefully it will help some other people as well. So a common thing I see as well, and something in myself, is women carry a lot of stuff in their bags, and they'll have it on one shoulder.
Yes,
and so we're walking around like this. So what does that kind of do to our posture when we're sort of throwing our body off like that?
Yeah. So if you think about all the things we do in life, you might drive, you might never be a passenger. So your right leg getting out of the car is always going to lead. You're always going to use that leg to step up and step out. So already you've got some imbalance. You will sleep on one side of the bed, and you will sleep generally, unless you toss and turn like a lot of people do, there will be a preferred side to sleep on. You'll either prefer on your back or on your tummy or on your left side or on your right. And the handbag is another habit that causes that postural deviation. And you will never, like when I started Pilates, I was like, look at my neck. It's so much closer. Look at that deviation. And I would spend half an hour a day to like balance my shoulders out. You will never be perfect. It's never going to be exactly ideal. But what you want to go for is a healthy range of motion, good strength, and good function of your joints. And what these deviations do, these little habits that we always carry the handbag on one side or get out of the car one way, they create one side of the body that has stiff and short muscles, which then pull on the bones. You know, you look at a basic posture, a right-handed person putting their handbag on the right shoulder, that's going to pull that. Or often you'll get a trap that's kind of grippy to keep it on the shoulder. Another one that reminds me of is ladies will always tell me that their bra straps will fall off one side. That is another sign. If you find that one side, you always have to adjust more than the other, or it constantly falls off. There obviously might be bra fitting issues there.
This is not what this video is about, bra fitting.
Bra fitting. Today we talk boobs, Anuska and Mel. So, if the bra strap falls off, that's another sign that there is a significant deviation, and there possibly are other problems that come with that. So like the bend in your back called scoliosis, that might be a sign that you've got something else going on as well. But yeah, what does the handbag do? It creates that deviation. One side's going to be stiffer, one side's going to be longer. It changes the length tension relationship in those muscles too. So you will be weaker in both sides, one because it's short and the other because it's long. And you just need to go for muscular and joint balance. You know, you'll never be perfect, but all of these deviations, you know, if there's one of those habits that you do more than others, then that's something we go through in assessment and we identify it. And then we make sure that we're balancing out that load with either an exercise, a stretch, or a change in that habit so that it doesn't keep reinforcing those habits that cause those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. My goodness. It's just so funny because I was so clueless for so many years, and it was only like for most of us, we only do something about something when it's screaming at us.
Yep.
And that's what happened for me. And it was, okay, Anuska, if you want to actually properly sing and stand on stage, the kinds of singing I want to do, you're going to have to do something about this, because otherwise you're going to end up in all kinds of pain. So, or worse pain. So, so I think the big take home messages then really are that if you're experiencing any kind of pain in your body, just start, or actually perhaps even initially just start to bring some awareness to your body. If you're not someone that's particularly connected to your body, because a lot of people aren't, just start to notice these things. You know, do you get lower back pain or neck pain or shoulder pain, or all of them like me, you know?
Don't worry, Anuska, I did too. I'm the walking poster child for Pilates. The other day on Instagram, I listed all of the injuries and pains that I had, and
Yeah,
it was a long list.
yeah, absolutely. And I think bringing it back to the voice again, start to notice as well with your voice. Is this impact? Do you notice that your voice fatigues? Do you notice when you're speaking and you're trying to project your voice, it's a lot of work? Because that's a sign that the voice is not functioning the way it's designed to function. And there's probably some muscles like neck muscles or etc. that are compensating for the intrinsic muscles of the larynx, which are not doing their job because they're tiny muscles and they have to be trained in a very specific way. So I think there's so many overlaps between your work and what I do. It's awareness, it's noticing things, but ultimately it's knowing that you can absolutely do something about it. You don't have to live with any of this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm
Sorry, go on.
no, you go. This is the you go first.
So before we go, you mentioned you've got an online course, the Heels. I can't remember what it's called now.
I'm in the middle of nowhere. People would disagree with me, but I'm 6 hours or 5, depending on if you do P stops and if you speed, etc. I'm substantially a few hours from Sydney, so at least 4.5 to 6 hours from Sydney. And so I have been working with people on Zoom before it was cool in COVID or necessary in COVID. And so I have been working with people on farms that are a few hours away that couldn't drive in to see me. So I've had online programs and different things that people can connect with me. So I do Zoom sessions every single day. And even if people are in Dubbo or live close, sometimes it's more convenient for them to be on Zoom. So every single day we use the big screen in here, and depends on the day, but sessions throughout the day, we might have 3 to 6 of our sessions where there is someone on Zoom. So we run courses online which have assessment, which is number one. With any of this, you need an assessment, because without that, you do not know what to work on. You'll be kind of putting a lot of energy to some places, and you might be wasting your time in some and underdoing it in others. So with our online courses, we do an assessment to make sure that we're addressing the right things, and then we use a series of Zoom face-to-face like this to make sure that you're getting the corrections and you can ask all the questions you want. And so we run those for a multitude of different things, but the 2 ones I spoke about today were the posture course. We call the posture place, the 6-week. That's another thing we agree on. Nothing happens overnight. I don't work with people for just 1 or 2, because just nothing happens, so it is a waste of time and investment for them too. So both of these programs, the High Heel Boot Camp and our 6-week posture course online, they're both 6 weeks. So yeah, they both include assessment, and we do work on Zoom, so I can see people. I've got a client in Bolivia, so
Wow.
yeah, that's Spanish. That's a whole nother thing I've had to learn. So today.
And so where can people find those courses?
Yeah, so you can find info we'll link it up below.
Yeah.
But if you head to Facebook or you head to Instagram, you'll see, like, my posts are littered throughout. about these courses. But yeah, otherwise shoot us an email. So we'll link it up below.
But your company's called Pilates Exclusive. That's what they'd be searching for on Facebook. Or
Yes. Yeah, you're looking for Pilates Exclusive. Thanks, Anuska, for the for the shout out.
Because they won't know what to
Where are they going?
Just this random woman called Mel in Australia somewhere.
Searching.
Yeah.
She looked a bit Asian, but she had an Aussie accent. Is she that one?
So I'll put the links below when I post this everywhere so that people can find you. But thank you so much. This has been so interesting. It's actually, as I say, it's been basically, I just did this for myself.
No, it's amazing.
I want to learn about it. No, I'm joking. Kind of.
Yeah. No, I'm joking, but I'm serious. But nah.
Yeah.
But it is so many of the things that impact us. We think we're alone, but actually, when we start talking to people, other people have experienced the same thing. So it's really cool. You're an amazing teacher, and I've been telling my clients this week. I've been posting a few times a day about this live, but just talking about how much it can help to have someone work with you on your voice. And I have a few teachers that that I will be passing along your details to. But there's just so much to be done. We don't have to suffer. Life is too short.
No.
That's the exciting thing, and that's what gets us pumped up and gets us here on a Friday at 7 o'clock in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Evening for
you. What time is it for you?
It's 11 a.m. now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. My day's just starting. But yes, absolutely. And I think, and again, I mean, bringing it back to kind of the work that I do as well with the voice, ultimately, whether we're speaking or singing, it's about expressing ourselves. It's about communicating. It's about sharing our thoughts, our ideas, our feelings. And that's, for me, the whole point of doing this, whether it's working on Pilates and doing the kind of movement therapy or voice, it's really so that you can show up in the healthiest, most powerful, most authentic way. And if you've got pain and you've got you're always going to be, you're never going to be able to fully show up in the fullest way you possibly could. And for me, that's what this is all about. And that's what all my work with speakers is about. At the end of the day, yes, I can give you the functional technical support, but ultimately this is so that you can go out there and do your thing in the world in the healthiest, most powerful way. And that's what it's all about for me. So you don't have to suffer. So you're not sitting there in pain or, oh, my voice is always fatigued. Well, it doesn't have to be fatigued. So yeah, just to know that. And also, I think you touched on this before, but also just again, to reinforce this idea, there is no such thing as a perfect posture. We've all got like niggles. We've all got imbalances. So we're not aiming for perfection in anything. We're just trying to get a bit more functional movement, or optimal functional movement, I guess, through the body and the voice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to give a good presentation at work when you're gritting your teeth through pain. It's hard to concentrate on learning something new when, or focusing on putting things into memory if your job requires a lot of that, when you're just gritting through and having this distraction of pain. So yeah, it's, for me, similar to you, people can't go on caravan trips, or they can't travel, or they can't pick up their grandkids, or they can't concentrate at work because of this pain, or they're popping pills to, Panadol every day to get through the day. And seeing people go from that to healthy and functional, where they can do what they want with their body. And similar to the voice, it's very rewarding for me, and it's what's kept me in the industry for 15, 16 years. And I think that is a really good take home to finish on. If you're willing to work at it, it's very possible.
Absolutely. And you are testimony from a vocal perspective. You're probably the hardest working client I've ever had. I think it's that discipline that you have from your own training and background as well. Because I'm very similar. Like if I'm if I'm working with someone, like when Pilates, and they tell me to do some exercises, I will do them, because I've just got that discipline from being a musician and a singer. It's just you can never really become great at anything if you're not willing to put the time in and practice. So
yeah. Absolutely. No, I'm testament, because when you start so poorly, Anuska, and you have so much work to do, one only has enough years in their life. So one must work harder now to actually, so many things in voice did not come naturally to me. And I was the quiet kid in class that never said a peep, because I was always I'm like the Asian, like full, parents are like, you're going to become a doctor. That wasn't the case, but, like those standards were set from when I was, from when I was young. So, it's about being a good student and staying quiet and working hard. And so coming now to then using my voice, I actually called when I was doing it, my YouTube channel, Finding Sound, because that's really what I felt I was doing. To be able to project and speak forward through my mouth and people that don't know what the hell I'm talking about, they won't get it. But if you've done a bit of voice work, like when you told me that speaking forward, it's like, yeah, actually I do. I make my voice smaller, I pull it back into myself. And, it made a huge difference to me. So I think once you see some results as well, you're more motivated to keep going. And I think the more work you do, the more results you see. So then it's more motivating, and then you have all these wins.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It was really interesting, really fun. And I hope that anyone that's watching the replay, if you've got any questions, please do post them below. And if it's a Mel question, I'll get her to answer it, obviously. But or I could just make up some answers. But yeah, I will put this out on YouTube. It will be going to my Facebook page. And thank you, Bob. Yeah, so thank you so much for...
Was that a positive feedback?
It was. He said, fascinating topic. Thank you both for streaming.
Bob.
I know, and I'm quite excited that I didn't even know if the stream was going to happen at one point, because apparently I deleted it off Facebook and it wasn't letting me do it. So
we all learn new stuff, but it's the fact that we're out there trying. We could be sitting on the couch having a beer.
Yeah, I'm doing that later, but yes. I am actually doing that later, because I'm having a curry later, and I'm going to have a beer with my curry, because you've got to have a beer with curry, I think.
Anyway, beautiful. No, it's been fun talking too. So we'll link up below. But thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And yes, anyone have any questions, please do post them below. I'd be very happy to answer them if I can. If not, I'll get Mel to answer them. Take care.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye. Thanks, Anuska.
Bye.